The outgoing commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel Enno Kirchhoff, will now address the regiment.
Colonel Landry, General Natinchuk, Major General Milner, general officers, colonels, friends and family, but most of all, dragoons. Thank you all for being here today. It's hard to put into words, but the last 2 years have meant for me, but I can sum it up in one word, and that's gratitude. And I'm going to try and get through this without blubbering, but I make no promises. From the time I got back to regimental service in 2020, we needed to build a cohesive team to get ready to deploy right away, while reorganizing the regiment to be able to keep the home fires burning while we were gone. And while I'd looked forward to working with RSM Jeremy Lehman, it was a matter of weeks before he got called up to higher duty at the brigade level, and Chief Warrant Officer LaRouche was brought in as the new RSM, but more on that later. We assembled a team of not just Canadians, but 1,300 soldiers from 9 nations, when the restrictions on seeing one another meant that the first time I met my company commanders face to face, I was issuing them a set of orders to go to the field. At the same time, back home, we were integrating new arrivals to the regiment, starting from the bottom and building from there. Throughout it all, there was perseverance in the face of adversity, and I'm grateful for all of the work that went into making that happen. Pendant les 2 dernières années, nous avons réussi à démontrer le travail d'équipe malgré tous ces défis. Vous étiez unis dans votre approche, que ce soit pour faire des tâches opérationnelles ou afin de soutenir le système d'entraînement. Plus spécifiquement concernant l'escadron C, qui inclut des membres appartenant aux 2 régiments. Vous avez collaboré en anglais et en français pour accomplir notre mission unie. I want to thank the leaders inside our regiment for taking such great care of our soldiers. I've grown up among officers and NCMs who have far more potential than I've likely told them in private. But I want to recognize publicly how much I've learned from you as you've taken up the challenges that you've been faced with. You've gotten down to work and exemplified the Dragoon values that we hold dear. You're an amazing team, and I'm so proud of what you accomplished. I also need to recognize the support from the other command teams in the brigade and the fantastic leaders and mentors that I've been able to learn from. To all the other COs and RSMs, thank you for your partnership, as we all learned a great deal during these last 2 years. Getting to share some drinks and stories was a rare treat, considering how much time we had to work together, being so small, and the other topics that we needed to overcome together. Your friendship helped beyond measure. To Colonel Landry and Chief Warrant Officer Lehman, thank you for the space that we needed to work during the busy years that we had. Your guidance and support were key to ensuring that the regiment remained on track with the objectives that you gave us, and you encouraged collaboration when it would have been easy to shut things down and keep everybody working on their own path. Especially for Mr. Lehman, we've known one another for 20 years. As part of this regimental family, and even though we didn't last long as a unit command team, you've been able to pass on your professional knowledge to the brigade for the last 2 years, and now all of Fordiv gets to benefit from your experience. To our regimental senior leadership, including the regimental colonel, Colonel Renahan, the senior serving dragoon, Brigadier General Cross, and of course our colonel of the regiment, Major General Milner, thank you for all your mentorship as I navigated these past 2 years. You were generous with your time and never failed to give good advice. I particularly want to thank Major General Milner, whose infectious enthusiasm for soldiering has never been diminished. No one has more drive for supporting the soldiers of this regiment, and we are all fortunate to have you on our side. To the RSM, Chief Warrant Officer LaRouche and Jenik, we went from not knowing one another at all to being a unit command team in the span of a single afternoon. Thank you, Jenik, for integrating Teresa and Emily into our regimental family. It's hard to imagine we've become this close in so short a time, but I credit your force of personality in living our regimental family every day. RSM, we traveled nearly coast to coast several times, drove to every corner of Latvia, and had parades with Foo Fighters intros. Things I never would have expected coming on to command in 2020. We developed a partnership based on mutual respect for our roles and even more enjoyment of the time that we've spent together. Thank you for every bit of that. Something I learned from the RSM is if I'm weighing a bad option and a worse option, I can always think, What are they going to do? Shave my head and post me to Petawawa? It's not such a bad idea. Nick, you've only been gone a short time, and our handover made it clear to me that all you needed was a consolidated sit rep on where things stood. Your experience and your attitude give you what you need for this job, and never doubt that for 1 second. You've got a great team alongside you and a clear vision for what you want to accomplish, so I'm confident you'll get there. To Gemma and your boys, welcome home. You've got a busy couple of years ahead, but you've got a whole regiment behind you. Lastly, to my family and friends, both the ones that are here today and the ones that are coast to coast, hopefully able to watch this later on, thank you for your love and support. Care packages of freeze-dried chili in Latvia, random emails checking up, and the occasional backyard beer are our love language. And I could not have done this without all of you. For Teresa and Emily, you have been so amazing during the last 2 years, and I can't thank you enough for your patience with many delayed vacations and rapidly changing plans, some of which I told you about, some of which I forgot. Coming home to you was always the best part of my day, and I'll likely be able to do that a bit more regularly. For the past 20 years, I've worn our badge, and it's definitely hard to step away from our regiment one last time. When Emily started a new school in Kingston many years ago, she came home from her first day and she said, "Dad, did you know that Kaylee's dad isn't in the Army?" I said, "No." "Did you know that Kaylee's mom isn't in the Army either?" "No, I didn't know that. Her mom is a teacher and her dad is a firefighter." It was beyond her comprehension that people were not all in the Army. That's what growing up in Petawawa does. It makes you used to the bonds of growing up in a regimental family, and I'm glad that my family has had that experience. I'm filled with gratitude for all of you, and thank you for making that real.
The commander of 2 Canadian Mechanized Brigade Group, Colonel Landry, will now address the parade.
General Hilliard, General Nitinchuk, General Milner, Farron, Cadden, General Atherton, Colonel Rousseau. Distinguished guests, friends and families, members of the regiment. It's an honor for me to be here today to preside over this ceremony, to hand over the command of this great regiment between 2 amazing leaders. I'd like to talk about operational readiness, which was my #1 priority. This regiment deployed over 250 people all over the world, from Latvia to Ukraine to the Middle East, and your professionalism has had an impact to deliver Canada's hard power all over the world. In the present context in Ukraine, the Dragoons deployed as a battle group and held the line against an aggressor. Your devotion, your dedication, and your skills have made a difference and are continuing to do so. The RCD is not a force multiplier. It's not an enabler either. It's a maneuver unit that needs to be supported, not supporting others. And I've fought with your CO over the last 2 years to make sure that your worth is well seen all across this army. And this is why my plan is to deploy the Dragoon again as a battle group to Latvia next year or the year after that. You've improved the VOR, which is not insignificant because it's directly linked to our readiness. Your hard work has had an impact to the entire brigade's readiness. You showed and taught the skills that you master. Mechanized warfare, tactical sustainment. Tout le monde dans la brigade a su apprendre des Dragoons au cours de la dernière année. Votre expertise de la guerre mécanisée n'a aucun égal au sein de la brigade. You've trained 2 lights and 1 heavy squadron during this very, very busy year under COVID restrictions. And you've met the NATO standard that our country expects of its mechanized forces. I can tell you that the value of C Squadron in Gagetown completely changed the exercise. Je veux parler aussi de protection de la force. Parce que évoluer dans un environnement de COVID, ça a été très difficile. I can tell you that I fully realize that the weight of all these COVID restrictions was carried by the members and the instructors of this regiment. All we've done is created more restraints and more limitations and ask you the same standard, and you have delivered. Support to our families is very important. Je peux vous dire que j'ai noté tout ce que le régiment fait, non seulement pour les anciens du régiment, mais aussi pour toute la communauté ici. The excellent support that was provided by the regiment to the deployed soldiers did not go unnoticed. I'd like to thank Theresa and Emily for your support during Anno's tours and exercises. OSMI. Votre connaissance approfondie des tactiques mécanisées et du maintien en puissance tactique ont été des atouts de taille pour tout le régiment, mais aussi pour la brigade. Votre expérience opérationnelle va être nécessaire à forger les leaders de demain au sein de notre corps. To NO. I don't like when I don't see you. You're an excellent leader with a solid mechanized background, and I think everybody could see this. Your experience as a leader overseas did not go unnoticed, and you didn't benefit only Canada. It was multiple nations that benefited from your leadership and your expertise. You've adopted that cavalry concept and taught it to everyone, not only within your regiment, but also outside the regiment within the brigade. You're a great ambassador of this concept within the Corps as well. You're a great mentor for the next generations of officers in our Corps, and I hope you continue to do so. You will remain an ally right here in Petawawa, and hopefully we can stay in touch. Well done. To Nick. I've been involved in Corps succession for a while now, and we've dealt together a few times, and I can tell you that I could not have chosen a better person to be the next commander of this, or the next CEO of this regiment. Ton expérience au niveau de la gestion de carrière va être extrêmement utile comme commandant. Et puis, je sais que tu as le leadership nécessaire pour continuer à travailler avec le régiment et l'amener encore en déploiement au cours de tes années de commandant. To Gemma, Liam, Mason, Declan, Cohen, your husband and dad is an amazing leader, and your support will be essential, not only for the regiment, but for the rest of the brigade. Audacio and Fortitudo. Pour les anciens du régiment, mais aussi pour toute la communauté ici. The excellent support that was provided by the regiment to deploy soldiers did not go unnoticed. I'd like to thank Theresa and Emily for your support during Anno's tours and exercises. OSMI. Votre connaissance approfondie des tactiques mécanisées et du maintien en puissance tactique ont été des atouts de taille pour tout le régiment, mais aussi pour la brigade. Votre expérience opérationnelle va être nécessaire à forger les leaders de demain au sein de notre corps. To NO. I don't see you. You're an excellent leader with a solid mechanized background, and I think everybody can see this. Your experience as a leader overseas did not go unnoticed, and you didn't benefit only Canada. It was multiple nations that benefited from your leadership and your expertise. You've adopted that cavalry concept and taught it to everyone, not only within your regiment, but also outside the regiment within the brigade. You're a great ambassador of this concept within the Corps as well. You're a great mentor for the next generations of officers in our Corps, and I hope you continue to do so. You will remain an ally right here in Petawawa, and hopefully we can stay in touch. Well done. To Nick. I've been involved in Corps succession for a while now, and we've dealt together a few times, and I can tell you that I could not
have chosen a better person to be the next commander of this, or the next CEO of this regiment. Ton expérience au niveau de la gestion de carrière va être extrêmement utile comme commandant. Et puis, je sais que tu as le leadership nécessaire pour continuer à travailler avec le régiment et l'amener encore en déploiement au cours de tes années de commandement. To Gemma, Liam, Mason, Declan, Cohen, your husband and dad is an amazing leader, and your support will be essential, not only for the regiment, but for the rest of the brigade. Audacio and Fortitudo.